book looks at the life of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Created Equal, Clarence Thomas, in his own words, explores the people and experiences that shaped Justice Thomas and his values, including one of the key influences in his life, his Catholic faith. And joining us now to discuss is Mark Paoletta, co-author of the book Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. Mark, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on. Absolutely.
So tell us, why you decided to write this book, why you felt it was so important.
Sure. So there's a movie called Created Equal, Justice Clarence Thomas in his own words, that came out in 2020. Michael Pack made it. He's a great filmmaker. I was part of that. I worked with Michael on it. And it's a 2-hour film. And he interviewed Justice Thomas for 25 hours and Ginny Thomas, his wife, for 6 hours. And so when you make a 2-hour film, you're going to lose a lot of those exchanges. And so as I watched the interviews and thought, oh, these are great pieces that would be in the movie, just the nature of a film, you're not going to get that much in. So 90% of the interview was cut away. And I just thought that would be sort of a crime not to get Justice Thomas's words and thoughts on his life and his jurisprudence, on the cutting room floor. So after a year, we went to Regnery and thought, let's package this up into a book-length interview. So that's what it is. I'm sort of a co-editor of the book with Michael Pack, and it's basically that interview, 25 hours over 4 sessions.
Yeah, and he's such an extraordinary person. He came from very humble beginnings. Can you talk to us about that, him growing up in the segregated South, and also the influence that some religious sisters had on his life?
Yeah, so Justice Thomas probably has traveled further in terms of his life, where he started, to ending up on the Supreme Court, than any American in modern times, maybe ever. He was born into segregation, into abject poverty, to a mom who was basically single. The father left when he was 2, uneducated, three children she was trying to raise, but in a shanty with no electricity except for one light bulb in the house, an outhouse on the water, just poor. Then he moved into Savannah, where it was terrible. It was, he calls it rural poverty, urban poverty. And it was when he goes to live with his grandfather when he's 7 years old in 1955 that his life changes. And one of the things his grandfather does, who's a converted Catholic, is he enrolls him in St. Benedict's Catholic School, which is, again, a segregated school in the South. This is in the 1950s. And it's the Irish nuns who run this school that changed his life, along with his grandfather. And when you look at Justice Thomas's life, right up until today, he talks about his nuns and the impact they had on him. And there's one sister in particular, Sister Virgilius, who was his 8th grade teacher, and the principal, who was from Ireland. A lot of them were from Ireland, and they were tough. And they taught them that they loved them, but they were going to expect the most of them, right? They were not going to give them any excuses, not let them fall into victimhood, even though they were, sort of teaching them in the segregated South to get them ready, to have them learn their math and their English and their history, and to be ready for this world. And so that literally changed his life.
Yeah, and he still stays in touch with them, right?
He still stays in touch with them. For many years after he gone, in the 80s, when he was in the Reagan administration, he sought out those sisters. They were retired, some of them up in Massachusetts, Sister Virgilius, and he went to thank them for all they had done for him.
Amazing.
And Sister Virgilius actually testified on behalf of Justice Thomas in his confirmation hearings. And after he was confirmed, for about 10 or 15 years, we would drive up, generally on Martin Luther King Day, to visit Sister Virgilius, and there was probably 80 nuns at this retirement convent up in Tenafly, New Jersey. And we'd spend the day, and he'd visit each and every one and thank them. A lot of them were his teachers. And then last year, there was a statue that was dedicated to Sister Virgilius and it's the Franciscan Sisters of the Immaculate Conception Order. And so there's a statue up in New Jersey that is of Sister Virgilius. It's dedicated to the nuns who gave their life, who went into these tough areas, into the segregated South and all over the United States to teach children in disadvantaged areas. And, that's Justice Thomas's life through and through, is to be thankful for those who helped him.
Yeah, and obviously it had a huge impact on his life. Something else that a lot of people don't know is he was maybe not going to become Justice Thomas, but maybe Father Thomas.
That's right. So when he was an altar boy growing up, his grandfather kind of drilled it into him. He's going to a Catholic school, is a great altar boy. He becomes the lead altar boy, and he goes into the seminary, sort of a high school. It's called a minor seminary at the time, right outside of Savannah. again, in terms of those challenging times, he's the first one of 2 black students to enter this previously all-white seminary. So all those challenges that go with that, does very well, and then he goes into the seminary in Missouri. But because of some racial issues and him losing his vocation, he leaves the seminary after his first year and enters Holy Cross College. And I think it was Justice Thomas, he never lost his faith, he says. He was disappointed in the church and that they didn't do more for racial justice. And he turns away from the church when he goes to Holy Cross. But then there's a significant scene in the movie and in the book where he ends up at a riot in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1970, and he realizes he's really fallen away from his upbringing, from his grandfather's values, from the nuns' values, and he stops in front of the church at Holy Cross and he prays to God. He hadn't been in the church for a while, saying, "If you take anger out of my heart, I will never hate again." And that, as he says, was a slow return to his faith.
Wow. Mark, so much more we can talk about. Such an extraordinary man. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much for sharing all this with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.